Alright, so we're going to be going over how to use TypeScript with React Navigation. So we're going to be looking at how we can type our navigators, how we can type the navigate function, so that it can know which screens are available, so that it can suggest us only the screens that are configured. Then we're going to be taking a look at how we can type the useRoute hook, such that we can safely pick out parameters whenever a screen is rendered. Then we're going to be taking a look at how to type a custom navigate function that we've created here. So we should be able to type it in a way that it can suggest to us all the possible screens and also all the possible parameters that our navigation setup can ever expect. So normally you're going to have, let's say, a stack navigator, and then you're going to define your screens in the navigator. So it helps to first type them out. So we're going to create a type here called auth stack param list. So what we want here is we want to type all the screens that are available in this navigator. So this navigator has a few screens. So basically we have the login screen and then the create account screen. So what you want is you want to define your screen name and also the types of the parameters it expects. So whenever a screen doesn't expect to be rendered with a parameter, you can pass undefined to illustrate that this screen doesn't have any params. So let's go ahead and also pass the create account. So since this name here has a space in it, we're going to be using the key. So we're going to be using the key in this string syntax, and then we can specify the types at the end. And this is all we had to do. Now our detail screen is going to expect some extra params, so we're going to be looking at how we can pass params whenever we have them. Alright, so now that we have our type for our navigator, what you want is whenever you say create stack navigator, you can be able to use this less than greater than sign, and then you can specify the type here. So when you do this, this makes this screen is type safe. So here, let's say I wanted to pass the initial params and did maybe something like message hello. I'm just showing you maybe a mistake we might make. Notice that it doesn't accept it because we said that our login screen shouldn't take in any params, right? Alright, so now that we have this, let's go ahead and type out the home navigator, because that one has a lot of use cases with the things we're going to be demonstrating. So let's have type, let's say home stack param list. It's going to be a type, then we're going to need this screen. So it currently has two screens, the user list screen and also the user details screen. So let's go ahead and define this. Alright, so the user details screen doesn't take any params, so we want to pass undefined here. So the second one is going to be the user details screen. So let's get this, and the user details screen expects us to give it the name and also the image to display. So you want to put a full colon and you put an object, and then you can specify your types. So we expect the name, so we can go ahead and type the name to be a string and also the image, and then we can type the image to also be a string. So this is how you type out the params that this screen will expect. So now that we have this, then we can go ahead and set that to our navigator when we are creating it. Alright, so now that we have this, let's go to our register. Notice that whenever we do use navigation, yes, we get access to the navigation, and that has access to the navigate function. But notice that the navigate function here doesn't know what screen this is. You can see that when I hit control space, we don't get the relevant screens, right? We don't get the relevant screens as suggestions. So what we want to do to be able to get suggestions here and also to type it to make sure we don't navigate the screen that maybe doesn't belong to this navigator. What you want to do here is you want to type this screen here. Since we are in the register screen, we can call it something like auth screen navigation type. And then we want to use something called a stack navigation prop. So we're gonna import stack navigation prop, and then what we do here is we pass it the type of the stack that this screen belongs to. So we need to make sure we are exporting it just so it can be used somewhere. So we're gonna come here and export this type. So we'll do export, then let's come here and make sure we are importing it. Auth stack param list, actually that's the one. And then for the second parameter, we pass it the name of this screen we are on. So in this case, if I open up a string, notice that we get the suggestions for the screens that are available on that stack. So let's say this current screen is the create account screen. Then we can go here on use navigation, and we specify that this should use this type here. So when we do that and come down here, we can be able to call navigate. So when we try to navigate, I'm going to hit a control space. Notice that we get the suggestions for our screens. So let's say now we can go to the login, and looks good. So let's say we try to send some extra params. Notice that it refuses because we didn't actually define that this screen expects an extra param. So that's how you handle the navigate function. Now there is even an easier way that we can really do away with all these typings here, and we can globally make it possible to just navigate and get all the suggestions. So we'll be looking at that last. For now, let's go ahead and take a look at how we can type the useRoute prop. So we're going to come to our details here. So in our home stack, we said that the user details screen should expect the name and also the image. But now when we come to use the useRoute, those params here are not actually known to Typescript. So what we can do is we need a way to type the useRoute. So I'm going to go here and type and create a new type. So let's call this one detail screen route type. Alright, so for this we want to use something called a route prop. So we want to do route prop, and then we pass it the type for the navigator where this screen belongs. So this screen belongs to the home stack param list type. Let's go ahead and export it because we need to import it this side. So we're gonna go on our details and pass the home stack param list. So the second parameter, we can pass the current screen we are on. So we are on the user detail screen. So once we define this, that makes it possible for us to come and type the useRoute. So we can come down here and type the useRoute. Notice that now it knows actually what we have here. So we can safely come and destructure route the image and also the name. And that makes us write some better code. So I'm going to come down here and make sure I actually remove this syntax here I was using, because now we know if we make a mistake of not passing this where we are calling this screen, Typescript is going to yell and that error is going to be caught at that point in time. So we can safely rely on our code and be confident in it. Alright, so now that we are done with this, then we can go ahead and do the last thing, which in our case is to type the navigate function, this one here, and also our ref. So for our ref, what we need to do is we need to create a type that contains all our screens, like all the screens for the app, and then that is what we pass to the create navigation ref function. So this is going to have to combine all the types from different navigators. I'm going to go in our source folder and create a types folder, and in there I'm going to create a navigation.ts. And this should have all our navigation related types. And this is something you want to do for most of your types. You want to take them out from the code and put them somewhere just so they can be easily maintained and people can find them easily. Alright, so what we want is to go to our navigators and actually move away these types. So we're going to cut this type and move it to our navigation types. And also we need to cut away the home stack type. So we're going to come and actually cut it away like this. We're going to go ahead and bring it to our types. Right, so what we need to do now is make sure we're actually importing them from our navigations folder. So we'll go to our details, we need to change where we're importing it from, and we also need to import them inside the home stack and also the auth stack. So let's do this. Also we can come here and do this, save that. We also need to go to the register and change where we're importing this from. So now that we have this, we need to create a combination of these two types. So I'm going to go to our navigations, and what we need to do is we need to combine these two types. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create an interface. So we're going to call it route stack param list. So we're going to call it this. What you can do is actually go ahead and copy these types here and also these types here and add them to our route stack param list. But what we can be able to do is we can use the extends keyword. So we have an interface, and then we want to inherit these types here. So we're going to inherit the home stack param list, and also we can achieve multiple inheritance by putting a comma, and now we want to inherit from auth stack param list. So this is going to go ahead and actually get every property that exists here and add them to our interface. So now if we had any other custom property, we can actually go ahead and define it here, and we are just going to have what's already contained here and what's already contained here. So one thing to pick up is you can use an interface, and an interface can inherit from other types. So it can inherit from the type and also from an interface. So now that we have this and we're exporting it, we can go to where we create our navigation ref, and we want to pass it the type for all our navigators. So let's pass the route stack param list. Let's make sure it gets imported properly. So when we have this contains all our screens, then we can come here and tell our navigate. Then you can tell it the name is going to be, we're going to use key of here, and it's going to be one of the screens in the route stack param list. Alright, so when we do this, notice that that error goes away, and then we need to now type our params. So to type these params here, basically if you think of it, we need a combination of all our possible screen props. So we have only two here, so that means we can come on here and be able to specify them And usually when you're using the navigate function, the params are always optional, so we can come and actually specify them like this. Alright, so when we do this, notice that the error goes away and we can safely use the navigate function. So what I'm going to do is actually keep these in a special type. So I'm gonna come here and do export type all screen param list. So let's do them here. And now that we have this type, then we can come and use it here. Let's make sure the import is okay, and that's good. With React Navigation 6, they kind of figured out that we are always navigating in our app. We can actually escape typing the useNavigation hook every time by adding this snippet somewhere in our code. So we're gonna go to our types. So we're gonna go to our types in navigation, and down here we're going to have this declare global. So we already have the restack parameters. This contains all our props, and that is what we want to use here. So that's how you want to name it. So declare global basically allows us to specify something that should be accessed anywhere in our program. So regardless of where we are, we should be able to access like the functions, the variables that are defined in the namespace React Navigation, and those should have access to these types here. So now that we have this, then we can actually go ahead and go to the register. Notice how we had to come and type out this. We can actually get rid of this, and also we can get rid of typing the hook. So we have done that, but notice that down here we don't get an error, and we can still get safety for all our screens. Alright, so that is how that works. I hope I have covered most of the use cases that you're gonna be interfacing with when you're working with React Native and React Navigation. So thanks guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. I'm working on a React Native course, so be sure to check out the link in the description below. I'll talk to you guys in the next video or series.